welcome back to BADH's Request Month. As always, I am your host, Sean McKinda.
And I am your host, Jackson Keller.
Or Jesus Christ.
I mean, they both start with a J, but that's about all we have in common.
Oh, man. So we're doing another recommendation this week, of course, as that is the description of, Request Month. And this one comes from a Twitter follower who goes by the name of Andres, at Andres Trivera. I think I might have just butchered that entirely, and if I did, I am so sorry. We did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter back in December for our patrons, and when we posted about it, this horseling was like, hey, why not do this? And I looked at it, looked it up, went, oh my god, that's a real movie. Fuck you, it's January is coming up. Yeah, we'll slot that in. We'll fit that in. And so we're doing Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, the sequel that no one knew existed to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's unrelated. It's completely unrelated.
Not even a little bit close, aside from the title. Pretty much everything. Well, that's not true. They do share some interestingly elaborate, social commentary for what you'd expect from a movie like this. Which is to say, not very heavy on the social commentary at all, but the fact that they have some and it's not totally brainless is a complete surprise.
Yeah. And you can also, a good way, in case you're ever trapped in a room where you're like, hey, one of these movies is good, one of these is bad. Which one is it? You can remember, because Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was a movie that tried to be good but ended up being bad. Meanwhile, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is a movie that actively tried to be a bad movie and is good because of it.
Oh my god, that was like enlightened Buddha level wisdom there. I'm shook. I'm shooketh.
Yeah, no, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter absolutely rules. It's another one of those movies where you have to be a certain type of person to really enjoy it, but the certain type of person to really enjoy it, where I normally say that and then come with the caveat of because they say some terrible things in it, is because it's a terrible movie, but it's a movie that knows what it's doing in this case. I have no reservations about recommending this to anyone who I think would enjoy it. This movie is absolutely wonderful. It's 40 minutes too long in the best possible way, and it was a goddamn revelation. Revelations, I should say. It was a goddamn revelations.
You should have just let it sit. You killed that joke. You shot it in the kneecaps. But no, I generally agree. I was really pleasantly surprised. I had a lot of fun with this. I'll admit, I was not anticipating this particular film. But it was a lot of fun. My only regret is that I watched it by myself, because I did have fun with it, but it would have been a lot more fun with friends and beer. It's one of those movies. Pretty much everything Sean said is completely true. Your metric for if you would enjoy this is like if you're the sort of person who enjoys The Room, basically. Like you gotta have that bone in you.
It requires a little bit more tolerance because there's a lot of just extended scenes of nothing. But like,
see, I think this requires less tolerance than The Room.
Really?
The Room is literally a whole movie of extended scenes of nothing.
Yeah, but like usually within those extended scenes of nothing, there's something that happens that like shocks you back into it. In this, like,
I guess that's fair. I guess that's true.
Yeah, in this there's like extended 5-10 minute fight scenes that make sense why they're here. This whole movie is basically a reference. We should clarify right now. Came out in 2001. But is a reference to like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like VHS boom, where everyone was making and releasing their own movies, and a lot of those incorporated just way too long fights that just didn't end. And so like that's what they're really going for here. But they do it in a very tongue-in-cheek way that's still very funny, but usually around minute 3 you're still like, and just gonna check Twitter for a sec. Oh, it's over now? Okay, cool. Now I can pay attention again.
I will say this does such a good job at aping those kind of movies that I thought it was the genuine article. I thought it was like an 80s, 90s VHS movie.
I mean, we have to give an absolute shout out to the editor behind this movie because they did so much work to make it look like all the film grain and all of the like just little hiccups on the screen look so real, and some of them are real. I know that I did a little bit of reading on this movie just because I was very curious about the history of it, and it turns out like they did try and use older cameras for a lot of it, and they like overdubbed it and everything like that to make sure the audio was just slightly weird and slightly off, but like they did a lot to really make it work. But the editor just did put in that extra little bit of effort that made it so smooth and made it so feel like it was from that era. It's absolutely wonderful.
I'm genuinely blown away by this knowledge. Like, you not only could have fooled me, you did fool me. Like, I thought for sure that this was like Ninja Silent Assassin, like that sort of thing. So I'm now tempted to call it a masterpiece in light of this knowledge.
I mean, it is a masterpiece in what it does. It absolutely is.
It does exactly. It's everything that it wants to be and needs to be,
and executes perfectly.
Something that I can't say for its Abraham Lincoln future counterpart. But more on that if you're a patron.
I do want to just jump off for a second here because you mentioned that you watched this alone and you think it would have been better with friends and beer, and it's something that I heartily agree with. But I also watched alone, and the reason I did that is because this movie, the description of this movie reads, Jesus Christ returns to fight vampires that are preying on lesbians, which to me sets off about 7,000 red flags of, if I watch this with someone, they're going to look at me and go, what the fuck are we watching? Why are we watching this? And also, what is wrong with you? It's not, though. Like, it's not. It's so wholesome.
Yeah, in hindsight, like, looking at that description, it makes some sense because, like, that is the sort of premise that you would expect from this kind of trashy grindhouse fare. But I think the difference is that, like, if it was the sort of yikes relic that you couldn't actually watch in the modern day, I would expect it to be, like, you know, Jesus versus, like, the lesbian, alien, goth vampires, like, that sort of thing. So the fact that they're preying on the lesbians as opposed to, like, being them is maybe a sign that they know what they're doing. I mean, they do know what they're doing. They do know exactly what they're doing. Even if it's, you know, 2001, they know what they're doing.
Well, see, my thought with that still, though, too, is, like, it could have been like, oh, they're preying on lesbians, and then, like, you see a scene of them just, like, devouring a bunch of half-naked women as, like, this orgy happens around them. But the only time that you get, like,
true
this fucking them going, I was gonna say going down, but I don't. Them consuming lesbians is when they're, like, in a lesbian halfway house, and, like, they're just a bunch of women casually dressed, and I'm like, this is even this, like, they're just people. It's great. It's so good. And they don't really play up, like, the sexy aspect of it. Like, there's a surprisingly lacking amount of male gaze within this fucking movie. It's so wild. I want to call this the epitome of punk Canadian filmmaking.
What a crown to have. What a title.
Because it has just an absolutely incredible punk energy to it. Like, just throughout it. It's very much renegade filmmaking, very much a fuck you to the man, a fuck you to your fucking social norms and everything. Especially of 2001. Like, I want to talk about the ending in particular a little bit, because there's one point where they're basically like, hey, fuck this idea, that I absolutely love. And like that going through like punk culture and whatnot, it was always very much a Rage Against the Machine, and also kind of it was a fairly inclusive a movement, honestly. Despite the idea that you would get out of it from standing on the outside, at least from my understanding of it, I was not alive in the era in which like 80s punk was really big, and I was too young for the 90s punk. But like growing up with it, my dad was very much a punk rocker in his youth, and I had some streaks of punk rock throughout my youth. I've grown up and turned into a giant fucking yuppie hipster, but that's my own regrets in life. But on the other side of it too, it's so fucking Canadian. It's like stereotypical Canadian. It's so nice. It's so wholesome. I love it. I love it so much. It's so good in that way.
You can tell it's Canadian because Nathan Fielder plays Jesus. Which that's a nice segue for my. I wouldn't even call it a criticism because after thinking about it again, I don't think it applies like it did for Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So to spoil it for you non-paying people, my big problem with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was that it didn't lean into its stupid premise enough, and that there was particularly nothing identifiably Abe Lincoln about Abe Lincoln in that movie until like the last 15 minutes or so. And something kind of similar happens here, but in a much better way, and that like Jesus starts the movie looking like Jesus, his long flowy robes and like his hair. But then after the events of the intro, we're definitely calling spoilers on this one because people should just see this for themselves. But after the events of the intro, like Jesus gets like a haircut and he gets like ear piercings and he's like punished Jesus, which I guess is kind of an oxymoron because Jesus' whole deal is that he was punished. But, so, and like just slowly throughout the movie, like he starts becoming more and more like 80s action man in just a dude in a V-neck, and he looks like buff Nathan Fielder, and I can't unsee it.
Oh God, no! I think you might have ruined it for me.
So that was originally my only complaint. I'm like, what? We're not gonna get like long hair flowy Jesus. Like it's just like Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter. But the fact that like it's like a character development thing, ? And also that they lead so hard into his transformation into like a, D tier Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's pretty great.
Plus, they do actually keep like a lot of like the biblical reference throughout it. Like there is so much dumb religious references to it that like some of them are fairly deep and obscure too. I was not prepared.
Yes.
Like they made a reference to like Onan's sin, which is not something most people. I only know about it because of the Binding of Isaac, and I went to church for a long fucking time.
I mean that's the other thing is that like was VeggieTales Canadian? I feel like it was.
It has to have been. I don't know that it was, but you're right. It has such a Canada energy to it.
And this is in its own weird way, this has some VeggieTales energy. Like someone, like, you're right. The cuts are too deep. This is someone who is genuinely a Christian, I think.
Or was. or like went to Catholic school.
I'm tempted to say that like this person, this is my own hypothesis. This is my own speculation.
Ooh, you know what? I was going to say, given the ending. Are you going to say the ending?
Given the ending, yeah. I think this is someone making like a plea to his fellow churchgoers. That's what the vibe feels like to me.
Holy shit. So like, I'm sorry, this just expanded into a huge headcanon for me. Because now I have this idea of this, like the main actor is like a pastor, like a punk pastor, who is then like extending this whole plea thing, and the church gave him a bunch of money to make this fucking movie. And I have no idea if this is what happened. I have my own theories about why this movie exists, and I want to talk about that in like 2 seconds, literally. But the idea that this was just some pastor and this is what they did is so fucking choice, and I love it.
I mean, that was my thought, especially before Sean revealed the fiery truth to me that this was a movie from 2001 made to look like VHS schlock. Like, this had a very, like, Bobby Hill skateboarding youth group teacher making a movie kind of feel to me. like that's what I thought this was. And it's perfect.
This is just slowly becoming a King of the Hill podcast, right? As we just slowly make deeper and deeper cuts.
I mean, Sean, if you just want to bite the bullet and switch any day now, I'm all in.
No, all right. So I want to talk about like where I came from with this then, because as I said, I had a very different interpretation of the movie, and in doing so, I'm going to promo our intro song. If you're a longtime listener, you know that our theme song is Suicide alternate take off the album High Octane Low Expectations. What you might not know is that band, specifically the lead singer, the front man, Dennis Bell, just released a video called Yeti Love onto YouTube. I'm going to post a link with this episode so you guys can go watch it. I highly recommend it. It is so weird. It's very fun to watch. I have other personal connections to it. I'm gonna let y'all figure that out, which you will. But this movie feels like something Dennis Bell would have made. It's got such a renegade, like, I'm just gonna do this because I want to, and also because I can promo my band through it. And that's what this feels like it is, because there's a band that plays all original songs through it, and they all absolutely rule. I love this. I hope there's a soundtrack somewhere. And like, it feels like that they are just basically making this movie to promo their band and have a good time while they do it, which is something that Dennis Bell would absolutely do. And I love that. I love that idea of filmmaking. So in my mind, this was absolutely some weird extended promo video for an album that was coming out or something. And I don't know whether it was or not, but it absolutely seems like it was.
Yeah, and I guess before we dive into spoilers and we talk about specifically what makes this so wonderful, my actual favorite part of the movie is like after the story proper is done and we see the bloopers and the credits, and there's just such a nice wholesome feeling of camaraderie, just a bunch of wacky guys and gals getting together to make a scrappy little movie and have a fun time and hang out. And it's really funny, it's really nice, it's really charming. I was pleased by it.
Yeah, the bloopers and like the conventional like 90s 2000s sense, but there's so much earnesty behind them that you can't help but love them. They don't feel jaded like a lot of them do. They're just clearly buds being buds doing their thing, and it's great. It's absolutely wonderful, and I highly recommend this movie. It's so good. It's wonderful.
Let's go to spoilers. Let's talk about I've been itching to talk about The Atheists.
All right, let's go to spoilers. As always, I'm going to do a little bit of a pre-spoiler promo for us. Go follow us on Twitter, BADH_cast. Go support us on Patreon, patreon.com/BADHcast. Like us, rate us, review us on iTunes. Tell friends about us. And next week, I'm making an executive decision right now, and it's an executive decision that I know Jackson is going to appreciate. We're going to do I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It's an anime movie. I looked up a little bit about it. It's a sad anime movie from a friend of the podcast. And Jackson, any complaints on that?
No. Sad anime movie? Oh, man. Sean, I'm feeling a little hot under the collar right now.
Yeah, as I said, this was literally decided right now on the spot. But yeah, that's what we're doing next week. So I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. I don't know that much about it, other than the title is buck fucking wild and sad. So, spoilers.
All right. So the atheists.
The atheists that show up once and never return.
That have no relevance to the plot. So Jesus, he's just walking down the street and he's minding his own business. And this like the guy looks like Report of the Week. In his like ill-fitting suit. He looks like Report of the Week cosplaying as like Agent Smith, and then there's a lady who's wearing like big titty goth GF like fishnets and stuff, and they're like, "Hey Jesus, do you know who we are?" And Jesus is like, "No," and he's like, "We're atheists," and Jesus is like, and then
No, I'm sorry, you skipped over the best part, which is where they say you wouldn't know who we are because we've never talked to you.
That's right.
Which is such a good line. It's so good.
There's a lot of good little religious quips like that, and then proceed to have a literal clown car of atheists.
God, I was not expecting to laugh at the continued joke of people getting out of this car, but I did. I did it every time, and they did it like 3 times.
So, I mean, like, I just want to talk about this scene. I don't have any particular like thesis on it, but like just so much happens. It's like the peak of like the overly long fight scene, and yet I think it might be my favorite part of the whole movie. For one, because I have another bounty, much like my Santa Claus Conquers the Martians Metal Gear bounty. I want someone to recut this scene with the Ultra Instinct music from Dragon Ball Super of Jesus just dunking on all these atheists. But more than that, like I just remember this one shot. There's just so many little moments in this that I remember clearly, like when they're getting ready to fight, when they're striking their like River City Ransom, like 8-bit era beat 'em up goon poses. Report of the Week does like a karate stance, and then like the lady just like bounces her boobs for a little bit. Jesus kicks a girl, and like she like Gumbies into a tree.
Yes, they stop motion, move her back into a tree. It is so good.
Jesus, he even gets the opportunity to do the Indiana Jones sword fight where, you know, the guy's like, I'm doing all these fancy sword tricks, and then he just shoots him. Jesus gets to do that with some like big scary looking like mid boss with like a stick, and he goes like, "Hooah, I got the stick," and he's like twirling around and stuff, and Jesus just like yeets him in one blow.
My favorite part about that stop motion thing is, as we're talking about it, I have like, I'm thinking about it. I'm coming up with like 6,000 ways to do that for like $5. I have, a matter of fact, I have filmed a yank scene before when I was in high school where we had to yank my buddy who, as a quick aside, I need to talk about our good friend of my stream, friend of the podcast, Patrick Bumbo, DJ Thundercock, however you might know him.
A man of many monikers.
We beat the ever-living shit out of him in high school for the sake of video projects because he was the smallest and lightest of us, so he was the easiest to manipulate. But he also had a really bad hip, so like we just beat the shit out of him for no reason. At one point he got surgery, and then we made him jump off a stairwell like a week later.
That's so good. What a trooper. You guys are literally Mike in the Gorilla Interrupted DVD commentary, who says that half the times in those shitty old Red Letter Media movies, he just wanted to see Rich Evans roll down a hill. Oh, that's so good. I didn't realize Bumbo was Rich Evans.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But also way better at dishing out insults.
Oh, that's so good.
But yeah, so like my favorite part, going back to that scene though, is as she was like getting dragged back gumbo style, as she getting dragged back gumbo style, they had already used a scene where they like showed an action shot of someone getting shoved back, and they just like worked around it by dragging their feet instead. So like they intentionally chose to do this stop motion. Like this was a legitimate thought of, how do we want to do this? Let's do it stop motion. Why? Why the fuck not? And I love it. I respect the absolute fucking hell out of it.
It's the only shot like it in the entire movie, which makes it all the more precious.
Like, they know what they're doing. They're actually really competent filmmakers. Because, like, to successfully ape the style so well, they knew exactly what they were doing. They had to have watched a ton of these movies. And they chose to do this. It's so good. Oh, fuck. That whole scene is great.
So Jesus beats up a clown car full of atheists. And my other main comment about the plot, that this was my main observation throughout the movie, is that the plot is very repetitive, and I say this in a good way because it turns out to be pretty funny. And that the whole story is basically a cycle of Jesus recruiting minions, getting the ever-living shit kicked out of him by the same, like, two guys, watching his minions get killed, and then recruiting more minions, repeat. so you have it.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh, fuck. The fucking phone call with his mom. I'm sorry. I just thought about that. The phone call with his mom is so good. Oh, shit. Because I was just thinking about, like, moments where he's recruiting minions, and in the middle of one of them, he has a phone call with his dad where his dad is ice cream, and he eats one of the eyes, the ice cream eyes, and they cut back and he's missing an eye, and it's great. And then a couple minutes later, he has a phone call with his mom, and it's the most mom phone call I have ever heard. It is so endearing. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. Keep talking about your cycles. I just need to interject with the fact that the mom call is great.
Didn't God even tell him that he needs to call his mom more?
Yes, it was a setup and payoff.
You know what would have been a deep cut that I would have liked to see, a religious deep cut? Jesus' brother to show up at some point.
Oh, man. That would have been a deep cut, huh?
Yeah, dude. Like Mary and Joseph's son, Jesus' brother, like, he shows up maybe at, like, the dramatic, maybe at the end when there's, he's got, they've got Jesus and El Santos on the ropes. Maybe, like, I'm Fred Claus, except not Fred Claus, because, it'd be whatever the fuck Jesus' brother was named. Who knows? Biblical scholars, probably.
Actually, biblical scholars don't know what Jesus' brother was named. They just refer to him as Mr. X. The more you know. I went to PSR for like 4 years.
Anyway, I'm just gonna walk through the movie here, and that Jesus, he has his, like, pastors who seem to be like, this seems like this is gonna be Jesus' crew, the Mohawk pastor and the other guy.
Oh my God, with the helmet that says "Live to pray, pray to live," and a slot for his mohawk.
It's the most glorious thing I've ever seen. Really practical. And then so they're like, uh-oh, we have a real vampire problem. What are we going to do? Well, obviously, we need to go get Jesus. We need to find him. He's too busy dunking this lady in the water who he completely forgets about. Presumably doing a baptism, but we never see her rise from the lake, I don't think.
No, that's the joke. Is they throw her into it. Like, he just drops her as these vampires show up and walks away, and then she's never seen again.
So, vampires come, and quite shockingly, the vampires kill both of Jesus's mates. He manages to yeet them into the lake, which is, of course, now a holy lake thanks to his presence. But he's down two pastors, and now he goes full punish Jesus. He cuts his hair so it doesn't get in his face. It doesn't whip him in the face when he fights anymore. And he gets his ear piercings, but he's still wearing the Jesus' robes, but now he looks like Nathan Fielder. So then Jesus has his musical number because, nobody...
Oh, God, the musical... Oh, fuck me. They do a full goddamn musical number. And I don't mean in the way that, like, they had the band come in and do it. No, they have a musical number where they sing and dance through the street. At one point, they block a road, and you can see people trying to turn down it in the background, but they can't because they had a bunch of people line up in front of the crosswalk, so they can't turn.
I didn't even think about this, but Jesus recruiting more minions is such a key aspect of this movie that is the entire point of this musical number. And that, this world, it has no good Christian spirit left. And then he does a song, but then he has to fight more vampires, and people don't join him, and it doesn't really amount to anything aside from being a banger. And so then,
where is the album?
where is the album? That's the question. Hashtag find the truth. So then Jesus, he gets a new friend. He gets Mary Magnum.
Oh God, which mwah, 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 mwah.
Basically the perfect name for Jesus's lady Bond girl sidekick. And so you feel like at this point, okay, Jesus has done the whole punish Jesus thing. He's lost his friends. Mary Magnum's like showing him the ropes, like modern society. She's gonna be like our Bond girl. But shockingly, like 2 scenes later, we get another fight scene where Jesus gets absolutely dunked on once again. And he gets dunked on so hard that Mary Magnum gets bit. At the time, it looks like she's dead. But that's the twist, is that she got turned into a vampire. So now Jesus kind of has to do the punish Jesus thing again, which leads to another scene that's worth talking about. But I'll wait until I finish my little breakdown of the plot here. So who...
Is there a scene in this movie that's not worth talking about?
That's...
Yeah, it's kind of... I'm trying to think of one too, and I don't think I can.
All these scenes are worthy of discussion in their own way, but we only have so much time, so that's why you just gotta watch the movie for yourself and have a delightful time. So, damn it, we had our preacher squad, we had Christian Science Bond girl. What are we gonna do now? Who in our hour of need can we possibly turn to? And the answer is, of course, El Santos, a luchador.
A gentleman who I think is actually a luchador. He is credited in the credits as Los Santos or El Santos.
We think this is the genuine article here, and him and Jesus team up. I don't even remember why.
Oh, because God says he should go hang out with Los Santos. He's a saint.
Right.
His Mexican wrestler name translates to the saint.
Right. Okay. So
that's all. Listen, you say that like, of course that's why. Because God told him to go hang out with a Mexican wrestler who's called the Saint.
I mean, for such a larger-than-life personality, you would think that he would be in more of the movie. He's only in, like, the last third.
Also, can we talk about how it's just Jim Sterling?
It really is just Jim Sterling. Oh, no. It is absolutely Jim Sterling beneath the mask.
110,000%. Like, it's like that's exactly the type of mask Jim Sterling would wear, and in fact, like, his fucking wrestling get-ups look like that. It's the character that he would play. Everything about it is just Jim Sterling.
So Jesus teams up with Jim Sterling, and like they have to go fight the same vampires again. Like so that one vampire guy and that other vampire girl just keep kicking the shit out of him. Like, he loses every time. And you think it's gonna be
like an episode of JoJo.
It really is, except like even in JoJo, they're fighting new guys. Like, these are the same guys that just keep dunking on him, and
they're Jesus's Dio.
They really are Jesus's Dio. There is true like arch villain. And so
I made the JoJo reference this time. Me, that was me. I just want to take credit for that. I don't know why. I really probably shouldn't, but I'm going to.
I'm gonna say, Sean, I'm afraid to tell you that's the last stage when the disease has fully settled in.
Oh God, am I? And I'm your host, Jackson Keller.
I am everywhere. Another quote by Jesus in this film.
I love that they don't know how to wrap up the doctor plot, so they just do that. I don't even know if it's that they don't know how. They're just like, oh shit, we gotta wrap this up. Let's just put him over there and say he's everywhere. And it's great. It's such a good idea.
So Jesus has 2 fight scenes simultaneously. One where he's grappling with intestines from Dr. Praetorian Guard, and the other one with the main vampire who keeps dunking on him. And El Santos, he's in the movie too.
L. Sterling, excuse you.
L. Sterling, Big Daddy Jim. So really, like, normally when you have that sort of, this is a relevant comparison because El Santo even breaks the main lesbian vampire like Bane. He literally Bane breaks her.
Yo.
So like, the thing about that, like, in The Dark Knight Rises and, presumably the original comics and all that other stuff, is that, like, when you have a villain that you fight and you can't beat and you have to, like, train and come fight them again, like, usually that represents, like, forget mental growth, even just, like, physical growth, even if it's just, like, Goku in the time chamber, like, it represents that something has changed, but the only thing that changes in all these instances is what minion Jesus has. So I guess El Santos is just the guy for the job. And that's my analysis of this movie's structure. It's so perfectly bad.
It is. It knows exactly what it's doing. Everything about this is absolutely intentional, and it's great. Like, I was thinking about this, because, you know what we should do at some point? Is we should fucking nut up and watch Sharknado. Ooh. It's a movie you and I have both avoided for a long time now. But, like, this movie kind of evoked a lot of comparisons in my mind to Sharknado. Because Sharknado is intentionally bad, but it's a way that we have avoided it because it feels more like just like a cash-in of the bad movie desire. Whereas this feels like way more of an homage. And like, I think that's the important thing is like this movie is very much intentionally bad, but done in a very loving way.
I would describe this as camp, and I would not describe Sharknado as camp. I don't think. I'd have to watch it. I think you're right that we have to bite the bullet and do it. But no, I mean, because my opinions on like what is and is not a bad movie have definitely evolved over time, because I used to be a hard line, like, bad movies are only funny if the director has no idea they've made a bad movie. But clearly that's not the case.
No, it's not at all. And like, that's something that, because we've watched so many movies at this point, I think we're slowly expanding out and realizing that, hey, there's a lot of gray area within it. Dolomite, you need to watch Dolomite Is My Name.
I do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's a dude who made a movie that ended up being very bad, but ended up getting a very big cult status for a lot of reasons and just leaning into it really hard and is beloved for it. So
I think, like, if I had to give where I'm currently at, I think that a lot of intentionally so bad it's good, like camp, I think that can be a great time, because if you think about it, like, it makes sense. Like, if you subscribe to Death of the Author, which is a whole other, like, conversation, but it shouldn't matter what the intent was as long as
you weren't expecting to end up here on a Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter episode, were you, loyal horselings?
I was not expecting to end up here on this one, frankly. But it makes sense. It's a relevant conversation, I think, in that. So, like, I'm, while you're actually watching the movie, like, the only thing that should matter is, like, how entertaining or funny it is. I do think that, like, the really, like, legendary, like, mythic ones, like The Room, your Birdemic, even, like, a Troll 2, those tend to come from, or, like, Neil Breen. Neil Breen's a great example of this, too, from these really space brain personalities, who have made their masterpiece, but nobody else's masterpiece. I think that, like, those are the ones that tend to get that legendary status that, like, keep getting talked about. And I think that the myth of the filmmaker behind it is part of the reason, where it's like, it's super entertaining to watch something like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, and frankly pretty interesting to dig into in its own right, especially because of how skillfully done it is. And we gotta know, where's the album? Where's the album?
Where's
John?
the fucking album?
But also, like, it's not like you couldn't. I feel like you couldn't write a whole book about this and have it be a standalone work of literature. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would be willing to bet you could, just from, like, learning what the fuck the backstory is on why it got made. Like I could see like just interviewing the director, the editor, the concepts behind it. I want to know more about that. Like I actively try to find more to read about this, and all that there is out there is reviews and a quick little thing on Wikipedia that doesn't say much. I was hoping to like even looked up the DVD. I was gonna buy the DVD if it had special features. I want more information about this movie. I need to know more.
That's the greatest mystery of our time, isn't it?
I wonder if this guy's on Twitter. I gotta find this guy.
What's his name?
Let me find out.
Just for our lovely viewers, so they don't have to take that extra step.
Lee DeMarbra.
All right.
I might have just fucked up that last name, but
that's fine. So this is our extra bounty. We have 2 bounties this week. One is along the line of my stupid usual meme bullshit. The other one is more akin to the real hard-hitting investigative journalism that we did for Future World. We're crowdsourcing it this time, though. So if you know anything about Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, or if you know the man who made it and could get him on here as a special guest, then we'd be forever in your debt.
Oh, shit. I'm tweeting at him right now.
Yes!
All right, cool. I just asked if there's a soundtrack anywhere.
If he responds, you absolutely have to invite him onto the podcast.
Oh, my God. In a heartbeat. Absolutely.
Oh, Jesus. I don't even remember what we were talking about before.
I don't know, man. We got distracted talking about this dude. Cool. Do you want to talk about the themes of the movie?
Yes, because there are themes. That's actually the only other thing this movie has in common with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, is that they both have like weirdly on point social commentary. This one to a greater degree, I would say, weirdly enough, but it's comparable.
It also, as I said, has a very punk sensibility in that it just wears its fucking themes on its goddamn sleeve. Especially, in my opinion, its big one, which is like serious LGBTQ rights things. Like, it's absolutely incredible with that. As I said, like when it says it's about lesbians, I'm like, oh God, oh no, oh please don't do this to me, please don't do this to me, movie. But then like it treats them like people. What a fucking concept. And at one point, Jesus asks like, hey, why are you killing lesbians? What's the point of the lesbians? And they go, because they're deviants. No one would ever miss them. And Jesus Christ goes, no, that's wrong. They are people and they deserve love like the rest of us. They are in love and they are happy. And I'm just like, what? That, okay. Yeah, I'm on board. Fuck yeah, let's do this.
You know, like, it's so funny that like all of this is like coalescing into a real like galaxy brain blast moment for me. I think this movie is genuinely a masterpiece of like subversive like punk rock. I don't know exactly what else to call it, but like, because the thing is that like I was fooled, I was bamboozled by the movie into thinking it was like an 80s film, and like because I had even said in our pre-discussion like oh yeah, it's still pretty amazing that the commentary as far as LGBT stuff is like as sensible as it is. But like I was even more blown away when I'm like, well, this was an 80s VHS movie, like holy shit. But the thing about that is like that was the Reagan era, and like, you know, I'm just thinking about this because I was just reading like a thing about the extent in which like Reagan not only like was negligent, but like actively that administration like actively denied like HIV research because, you know, they saw it as a good thing. They saw it as like, you know, God's punishment disease. So the fact that they are cloaking this, you know, positive, you know, hashtag love is love message under like a Reagan era, a near perfect copy of like a Reagan era movie like that's genuinely brilliant.
You are blowing my goddamn mind here. Oh fuck, that's so good. Especially like the other thing, the other moment in this movie that like kind of got me that gave me pause, and this is actually going to tie into I think some of the themes that you want to talk about a little bit here.
Yes,
but it's more because I'm super pumped about like LGBTQ representation in movies, especially when it's like surprise LGBTQ representation in movies. Like I think that's a really good thing. Just because we've watched so much trash where it's at the expense of those people, and that always leaves me feeling gross and slimy afterwards. First of all, there's not bi erasure in this movie, which is great, and the bi woman is not incredibly horny, which is also great. She's just treated as a woman, so like fucking props there, because we still don't have that. But also, at one point, I'm going to, just for sake of clarity on this audio medium, refer to this person as masculine. It's a little bit trickier because it's definitely I don't even want to say definitely. It is a. How do I want to phrase this? Jackson? You got an answer for me?
Which maybe this would help. Which person are you talking about?
Specifically, the person who is basically is the new Mary Magdalene in this, essentially. Like, I saw this character as the Mary Magdalene who picks him up after he is rejected by the other two.
Oh, yes, okay. Ooh, that is tricky.
I was gonna say, because I think the clearest way is to say a man in drag, but that might be reductive, so you know what, I think I just have to stick with it, unless you got a better idea?
Yeah, I'd go with it, because, like, I don't know if, like, they're supposed to be just straight up trans. I don't think that's true.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
just go with it.
we're gonna go ahead and say that. If this is not the case, I apologize, but like there's elements of it that are still kind of hinky even by today's standards. But like there's a moment of it where it kind of feels like it's being played for laughs, but then this person gets this song and ends up by being like, there's a little, there's a little queer in all of us. We're all a little, there's that hidden moment in all of us. And like, even this character that feels like it might have initially been played for laughs ends up being like this heart of a movie, like there's a quick like, haha, oh yeah, type of moment in there. But then it's quickly inverted on its head. It's that subversion where it's like, just kidding. This character is like a heart of the movie and representative of so many things. It's so good.
Yeah, and I think especially because like even some of the hinkier stuff, I think that if we're reading the movie as like purposefully subverting a lot of these like LGBT, harmful tropes and stereotypes, like when Jesus like wakes up on the bed, you kind of expect it to be almost like a Misery, the Fanatic situation.
Yeah.
But like then when it's played so sincerely and you realize that the point of the scene really is just that, like, the figures of authority, the bishop, the police officer, they're not following the good Christian values of,
They for context, they walk past Jesus, who is like bleeding out in the street.
Peak punish Jesus. When this person walks by and takes him in and they have their little moment, it's a pretty strong statement.
All right. I'm sorry, I just got excited because I've been comparing this person to the Mary Magdalene thing, right?
Yeah.
Who is famously in the Bible a prostitute. But Jesus looks past that and takes her in, and she's a good person underneath it, according to the Bible and whatnot. Like, she is someone that society has overlooked, but represents something better. Holy shit, right?
I mean, this movie,
like, even in the Bible, sorry, I'm going to cut you off because fuck it, I'm on a roll here.
Go for it, Sean.
Because like, even in the Bible, people look down on Mary Magdalene as just a whore, to, use the vernacular. And don't treat her with respect or anything like that. And in this, like, the idea is that the audience doesn't treat this person with respect and treats them in the same way. But then look at that. They're the ones who uplift Jesus in the same way that Mary Magdalene did. Boom! Y'all got PSR'd!
This is, I mean, the more we talk about this movie, the more layers that we keep finding. I mean, this is, frankly, I wasn't ready to talk about Death of the Author today.
Like, this is absolutely a fucking meme movie, but also underlying it is some seriously good shit.
Like, really the fact that they were so meticulous about replicating this look. Like, that gives the game away. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, and yet somehow they're still just a bunch of buds having a great time filming a movie and have this really subversive take on, like, 80s movies and their relationship to, like, the culture and that culture's relationship to LGBT people. There's a lot going on.
I genuinely want to talk to this director now. I hope he gets back to us.
Mr. Director Man, please come on our show. We'll watch whatever movie you want. We'll have a nice chat. And it'll be a great time.
God, that'd be fucking exciting as shit. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Oh, all right. I gotta talk about my favorite moment.
Yes.
Because you talked about yours, and mine's far more succinct, but it's something that I absolutely loved. And I have to give a quick shout out beforehand to the sound effects, which are all like stock goofy sound effects from 80s cartoons and action movies. And I absolutely adore them. And that's important to know because my actual favorite moment comes at the very end when somebody stakes Jesus in the chest and he pulls it out with a sound effect. And I absolutely love that sound effect. And then starts melting people with his Iron Man light chest, which is in fact just a mirror taped to a shirt. And that might be my favorite part of the movie, is how clearly that is just a mirror taped to a shirt. I love.
Speaking of great vampire kills, I think this was my second favorite part of the movie. I legit felt like I was like falling into a wormhole when this happened. Like I didn't understand what was going on. And when I did, I felt enlightened. So there's a part when Jesus and El Santo are fighting all those vampires in that club, where like all of a sudden it cuts to this black and white flashback of Jesus going to a shawarma place. And like
God, yes!
eating a gyro and like really honing in on the garlic sauce, and then Jesus breathes in a vampire's face like a dragon and defeats them that way. And like when you realize what's happening, just the way it's presented, the punchline to that is so perfect. Like it legit feels like achieving apotheosis.
Also, can we talk about how they blessed like the entirety of Lake Huron to be holy water? I have no idea what part of Canada they filmed this in, but they definitely blessed one of the entire Great Lakes to be holy water so they could kill vampires in it, which might be the greatest idea in the world.
I mean, shit, if he could do that, just go walk on the Pacific, we'll just have a big old ocean full of holy water.
I mean, I don't know why we haven't tried this before. I mean, we clearly have an epidemic of vampires that need to be taken care of. So let's just go bless the Atlantic or the Pacific and make it all good,
Speaking of this, okay. So this is unrelated to Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, but now I feel like I might have dementia. Like I'm losing my grip on reality slowly because I can't remember. So I use a like Amazon Echo Show as my alarm clock. I got one for Christmas a couple of years back. So, that's my alarm clock. It's right by my bed. And so when I wake up, I'll see some like headlines and stuff. And so I legit can't remember if I woke up to a headline that said experts say aliens are living among us, or if I dreamed that. And now Sean talking about that vampire epidemic has made me remember it, and I'm slowly losing confidence in my sanity.
Oh God, you're gonna go full Alex Jones in like 10 years, aren't you?
I mean, I already believe in the ice wall surrounding our flat Earth.
The fucking dome! You don't understand! Ugh! Matt Jackson's going full on hard into the fucking firmament. Got the big dome over us with the sun and the moon. Hell yeah. Listen, you can go hang out with Bob and that dude who strapped himself to a rocket, all right?
I guess this is my fate now.
Hell yeah. Lean into it. If it's a bit, you must commit.
Do we have to do our outro? Can we just end it there?
Oh, I think we do. I've been Sean McKenna. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_McKenna, where I'll never say anything as clever as that ever again. Find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/helpless_Skippy. Find my writing over at 25yearslatersite.com. Yeah, Jackson.
And I'm Jackson Keller. You can find me on twitch.tv/JacksonJKeller, where apparently I'm talking about Flat Earth from now on. So come join me there.
If you want to follow the podcast, you can check us out at BADH_cast on Twitter. We'll tweet out news, updates, all that good stuff. We don't use it super often, but hey, you never know. Keep an eye on us.
We're using it to slide into the director's DM.
I mean, somebody's got to eventually, right? And if you want to support the podcast, you can do so over at patreon.com/BADHcast. There's no underscore on that one. I'm still really incongruous with our branding, but don't worry about it too hard. For $1 a month, you get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord, where you can come yell at Jackson and I and tell us why we're so wrong about everything we ever do. $5 a month gets you access to all our bonus episodes. We've got a ton of banger backlogs, and we've got one coming out within a day or two of this episode's release. It might be the same day, depending on how quick I can turn it around. But that's going to be Repo Man, a 1984 fucking kind of like straight to VHS shit like this, except that was actually in theaters. I feel like it's going to have a similar energy, though. And at $10, you get access to all our backlogs, as well as the ability to request bonus episodes if you got something you want us to watch, like Sharknado or Under the Flat Earth or something like that. Just sign up at $10. It's not that much. You know, $10 a month, that's one fucking meal. You don't need that. Go to the gym. You also get...
Damn.
Oh no. You also get a shout out from us, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Travis, Julia, Mom, Aunt Summer. Thanks for going to the gym.
Oh, fuck me. I didn't mean that. That was way harsher than I meant, but I'm sticking with it.
If it's a bit, you must commit.
Also, thanks to Lords of the Highway for the use of our theme song. It's Suicide Ultimate Takeoff the album High Octane Low Expectations. They're a wonderful band. Go check them out and go click the link that I posted to that YouTube video. You won't have a bad time with it. I can promise you that much. There's an extended bit about Monopoly in it that might be one of the funniest things I've ever watched. It's very good. Also, thanks to 25yearslatersite.com for the endorsement. We're a little symbol on their... a symbol? You can click on a button on their site and it'll take you to us. But while you're there, you should absolutely read some of their stuff. They've been doing audio stuff now, which one of us on the podcast might have something to do with that. I don't know who it might be. It's me.
It's definitely not the man who lost all of our Dark Knight episode. That's for sure.
And then also you can do read their shit. I don't know why I faltered on saying read. Go read their stuff. They've got everything: wrestling, movies, TV shows, movies. If you can think of it, they probably have an article on it. They're great folk. They're way more talented than I am, and you should go support them in any way you can. Next week, I want to eat your liver, something like that, with fava beans and a nice Chianti, I think.
Ooh.
Bye.
Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go